Hi everyone and welcome back. So today's video is something that I wanted to film as soon as we found out we were pregnant, or when it had a chance to sink in. I didn't want this video to be too structured, so I've not made any notes. I just want to sit here and talk to you all as if I'm chatting amongst friends, because I just feel like the more relaxed this is, the more enjoyable it is. I've made myself a brew in my favourite Mary Berry mug, but I just wanted to just chat about how it happened. I didn't want to sit and go through like bullet points or anything like that. As a lot of you will be aware, I gave birth to Rupert Thomas on the 13th of October, and he is now 5 weeks old, and he is the most scrumptious little baby. Rupert was actually due on the 10th of October, and it'd been the plan from kind of the 30-week mark that if he hadn't arrived on the 10th, I had an appointment at the hospital the day after on the 11th to go and kind of come up with a plan, talk about induction, things like that, anything that we might want to happen, and possibly have a sweep. He didn't make an appearance on the 10th, and that whole week I was any little sign. If I had like a little bit of tummy ache or a bit more backache, I was like, this is it, Tommy, get the bags ready, we're off. And that's not how it happened at all. So we went on the 11th. I had a sweep, which was, I'd say it was just uncomfortable. The worst bit was that the doctor that was doing it was explaining what she was doing and where she was when she was doing it, and I wish she'd just not said anything and just got on with it. She said that we would probably see if it did work within 24 to 48 hours, and there was quite a lot of blood loss after that because obviously she's interfered down there, so I had to wear quite thick maternity pads from that day. My favourite ones are the Beats ones, but I'm going to do a whole video on that. I'm starting to think maybe I should have given this video some structure because I'm just going to waffle on, aren't I? But hopefully you don't mind. So that was the 11th, and then on the 12th, which was the Friday, the 11th, I just kind of had like a little bit of more stomach ache because I'd had that sweep, and obviously the blood loss was quite uncomfortable. It just wasn't very nice. That day after my sweep, Tommy went and bought pineapple chunks, some raspberry leaf tea. We had a curry for tea. I did that more to kind of please Tommy. He was so ready for baby to be here, and obviously I was too. But I was kind of the mindset that I've had a sweep. He's going to appear when he wants to appear, and a little bit of pineapple at this point might not make that much difference. So we won't really know what it was, but I had a cup of raspberry leaf tea. I had quite a lot of pineapple, and we had a curry that night. Then on the Friday, I woke up with this real burst of energy to get stuff done in the house. I woke up really early, it was like 7 a.m. And I feel like I was nesting from probably about month 3 of being pregnant. Obviously we changed the kitchen, we got the garden done, we painted everywhere, we got the nursery done, and we were buying stuff for him, for the house, putting pictures up, we changed the whole living room around. I was fully in nesting mode, but nobody can really prepare you for what actual nesting looks like. So that day before he arrived was nesting mode like you've never seen before. And that morning I opened like 3 packs of nappies and put them all under his crib so that we had them there. Loads of baby wipes put there, got all like bibs ready, got his blankets out ready for him to come home. I went downstairs and just cleaned everywhere, put washes on, like literally got the house to the point of, okay, there's nothing else to do now apart from bring a baby home. We had a set of shelves to go in his nursery that had never been put up because they'd only arrived like a couple of days before, and at that point it wasn't really a priority because obviously we thought it was the week of baby appearing. And Tom contacted the guy that we have to come and do like odd jobs around the house. He's lovely. To come and put those shelves up. So he came and did that. Then I dressed all the shelves. So I popped like loads of books in there and little toys and ornaments and things like that, like bits and bobs that I'd got for his nursery. Went into like real crazy lady mode and got so much done. And then after that, I just had a period of exhaustion. Like I was absolutely exhausted, and I don't use that term lightly, but I literally couldn't keep my eyes open. I was on the birthing ball all night, just like bouncing and kind of gyrating on it. And I said to Tommy, I was like, if it doesn't happen tonight, then I will be really, really surprised. I just felt like my body was preparing, like I was tired, I was aching everywhere, I was grumpy and apologising for being grumpy because I knew I was, and getting myself a little bit worked up, kind of, I think because I knew that it was around the corner and that this was it. And it's the not knowing when. It's a case of, right, do we go to bed? Anyway, we went to sleep, and I didn't have the best sleep. I woke up the next day about 7 o'clock again, and said to Tommy, I was like, I can't sleep, I might as well go downstairs. And he was like, you need to rest, this could be happening any time. And I was like, no, you go back to sleep, I can't sleep, there's no point in me being led here, I might as well go up. As I was walking down the stairs, there was like a little trickle of water, and it was as if I'd wet myself, and I couldn't stop it. It was like, oh, I had no control over that. I don't know what that was, but it was like the tiniest little thing. Didn't think, well, I thought something of it, but didn't really think anything of it. Thought like just kind of, oh, I'll keep an eye on that, you know. Went and let the dogs out and fed them. And as I was bending down to put the bowls on the floor, there was another little trickle. And I thought, I'm not sure if something's going on here. So this was about 20 to 8. So I came upstairs with Tinks and threw Tinks on Tom, and Tinks like woke Tommy up by licking him all over and kissing his face and stuff and wagging a tail. And I was just like, Tommy, I think my waters might be breaking, because I didn't think they'd gone, because there wasn't this like massive gush of water that you see in the movies. There were just like little trickles. And he was like, what do you mean? So I explained to him what had happened, and then I told him to go back to sleep, because I thought, well, there's nothing happening, I'm fine, I'm not having contractions or anything like that. I really didn't have an appetite, and I felt really, really nauseous. And I was on the birthing ball doing my thing, and then there was just this massive gush of water. And I managed to kind of get myself off the rug where I was onto the hardwood floor so that it was like easier to clean up. I just remember sitting there going, oh my goodness. Oh my, like over and over again. And Tommy was just like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I was like, grab a towel. And the dogs were literally, oh, Evie. So the day before, sorry, maybe I should have made notes. The day before, Evie and Tinks were just sat on my bump the entire day, and in a way that they hadn't really done before. And then the morning of, on that Saturday, the 13th, Evie has hated the birthing ball ever since I blew it up and started using it. She's really funny about different noises and stuff. Evie's our oldest puppy, who we've had for 8 years. She's like my little best pal. And every time I get the birthing ball out, she would like go off and go and get on a bed, sit in a different room. But that morning, she sat on my feet at the bottom of, obviously, of the birthing ball on the floor, and stayed there the entire time that I was on it. And I feel like she knew. I know it sounds, if you don't have dogs and you've not experienced anything like it, you'd think I'm crazy, but I honestly swear she knew. I managed to like shimmy to the toilet on a towel, so like my feet were like doing this with the towel underneath me, and Tom was following me. I rang the hospital. I just said, I think my waters, oh no, I rang them when I'd had the trickle and said, I think my waters may be breaking. And they said, right, well, we'll need to come in and check you, because there's risk of infection. If you don't go into labour within 24 hours of your waters breaking, then they're worried about infection, obviously. I had an appointment at 1 o'clock to go up to the hospital, but in the meantime, these couple of gushes had happened. So by the time we got to the hospital at 1 o'clock, I was pretty sure that my waters had gone, and they didn't actually end up needing to swab me in the end, because they could tell that I was kind of on my way, on my way to giving birth, basically. So we got to the hospital about 1:30, and by that time we were majorly sure that my waters had broken, because we'd had all of this. I wore a black and white stripy t-shirt, the one that I kept saying, this has seen me through my pregnancy, that short sleeve t-shirt, my pink hoodie that I've wore over and over again, maternity leggings, and my denim jacket. By the time we were on our way to the hospital, my contractions were probably every 7 to 8 minutes, I would say, maybe 7 to 9 minutes by the time we got to the hospital. So we got there at 1:30. They didn't need to swab me, and they basically said, we're going to put you on a monitor and just check baby's heart rate and just check that he's moving okay, which I'd had quite a lot through the pregnancy anyway. So that was fine, and everything came back fine. And by that point, the contractions were getting stronger. We were there until about 4 o'clock, and in that like 3-hour window, they'd gone from 7 to 9 minutes, like 4 to 5 minutes, and they were getting stronger. Like I was really having to like start to breathe through them. The midwife asked if I wanted to be checked, how kind of like far along we were. I was 2 centimeters dilated at 4 o'clock. To which point she then said, you're in the early stages, but very, very early. You might as well go home, try and have a bath, rest, settle, and come back when your contractions are much stronger. And that's what we planned for anyway. On the way home, they were getting so strong and a lot more painful. And we got back home and I said to Tommy, I was like, I can't go for a bath, because I couldn't sit still. I was like, I'm going to lie on the bed, see if this will pass. And I just kept feeling the need to go to the toilet for number 2. I just felt like I really, really needed to keep going to the toilet. So it got to like 5 o'clock. We'd been home for about half an hour, and Tommy was like, "We're going back to the hospital, Amy. This is not on. This is not how it's meant to be. You need the support." They said, he's crying downstairs, so if you can hear it in the background. We need to be back. This isn't normal. They said to go back if we're in a lot of pain. And I was like, no, this is normal. This is all I've read about, that these are the early stages. This could go on for hours. I'd rather be at home. I don't want to be sat in hospital for like 8 hours while we're waiting for this to happen. But I was pacing the bedroom, and the motion that really seemed to help me was to lean forward onto something, so put my hands on like the bed and lean over, and then kind of like walk on the same spot with my feet, so put one foot back, the other foot back, one foot forward, the other foot forward, if that makes sense, over and over again, and then keeping on going to the toilet to try and go to the toilet, but I didn't actually need the toilet. It was so strange, like it was so overwhelming, but I didn't need the toilet. I was just about to have a baby, it turns out. So it got to about 5:30, and I said to Tommy, right, we need to go back to the hospital now. I can't cope with this. I just said to Tommy, I was like, I can't do this here, and if this is going to get much worse, I don't know how I'll get to the car and make it to the hospital. So I literally waddled, as we've like called the technical term, to the car, because once I decided that we were going back to the hospital, I wanted to be at the hospital. We rang up before we went, and they were like, yeah, come back in, is this your first baby? Which I feel like they say just to kind of ask, but it feels so like patronising, like to say like, oh, she's just overreacting, she doesn't know what to expect, kind of thing. Anyway, so they were expecting us. We got there. By this point, they were like every 3 minutes apart. They were super, super close. Even like 2 to 3 minutes, they just felt like they were coming on very, very quickly and very, very strong. So when Tom dropped me off, I was like, right, I have like 3 minutes to get from the car to the delivery suite as fast as I can before I have another contraction, because at this point they were kind of like, it felt like really, really severe kind of like stomach pain. You can definitely tell the difference between Braxton Hicks and actual contractions when you have them. So if you are pregnant, you will know when it's happening, or I did. I know it's different for everybody. I feel like I have to keep saying that. Anyway, I made it there, and this lovely girl showed me to a room, and she was like, okay, if you'd like to take a seat, the midwife will be right with you. And I was like, I think I'm better off standing. I was thinking, there's no way I can sit down and wait for this midwife to come. So I was standing up, pacing the room. I was holding on to the end of the bed and doing that walking thing, and going to the toilet, not needing the toilet, sitting on the toilet, getting up off the toilet, walking around. Tom came in. I was like, Tommy, I said, if this is just the start, if I'm not much far on and this is like going to go on for hours and hours, I was like, I'm going to need as much pain relief as they can possibly give me. I was just like, I can't do this. The midwife came in, and she just asked me a few general questions, and then she said, right, let's see how far along you are. So she did a little check, and so I was 2 centimetres at 4 o'clock. By 6 o'clock, I was 7 centimetres dilated. So I think I had every right kind of to be in that little bit of pain, because it all happened very, very quickly, and I'd gone on a lot further than anyone thought I would do in that short space of time. So then Tommy was like, how quickly would you expect this to progress, from here? And she said, we expect you to go maybe 2 centimetres every 4 hours, kind of on average. So we were thinking like, wow, we're going to be here for quite a while. It might even be tomorrow. The midwife said he might be here tomorrow. And she got me the gas and air. Oh my goodness, the gas and air made all of the difference. I can't even tell you. When people have had a baby and they've used the gas and air and they say it's magic, you're kind of like, oh yeah, well, I'll use the gas and air, but you don't actually realise how much it helps. And I couldn't have got through it without the gas and air. I would have had to, but I don't think I could have. Immediately it just took the pain away, and I would kind of like breathe it in as the contraction was coming on, and then breathe out through the contraction, and it just helped so much. It calmed me down. I was holding on. I actually ended up with bruised knuckles because I was holding onto it so tightly. So that was about 6 o'clock, and maybe about 7 o'clock I had taken like my leggings off. I was in that black and white stripy top. The hospital bags never made it into the hospital. All those videos I made with what I'd packed for hospital, they stayed in the car throughout. I gave birth in that black and white striped t-shirt. Halfway through the actual labour, I asked if I could take my bra off now, and all the midwives were like, yes, of course, why are you still wearing a bra? And I actually wasn't on a delivery bed when they took me into that room. It was just a normal hospital bed. So halfway through I had to switch beds, and as they were bringing the new bed in, I just, as Tommy said, that they all just saw this maternity bra fly across the room, because I just kind of stripped it off. I don't even know how I managed to take it off. I don't even remember taking it off. Took it off, threw it across the room as they were walking in with the new bed, transferred me onto the new bed. But before all of this, at about 7 o'clock, and she'd done a little bit more paperwork and had a little bit of a chat and was just kind of monitoring me and stuff. And then as she was leaving the room, I let out this almighty groan, and it's not like anything I ever knew a noise that I could actually make. I apologise if it looks like I've moved slightly. I just had to quickly change my battery. The only way I could describe it, it was like some kind of animal, like an animal instinct noise had come over me. It was like I'm not going to do it on camera, that would just be ridiculous, but it was like a really deep, kind of like it had come from like the pit of my stomach groan, and really quite loud. And as she was walking out, she came back in, she went, "Okay, I'll just check you again." And she came back in, and I was 9 centimeters. And at that point, she actually said, like they say in the movies, "Okay, I'm just gonna go and get some towels." And she started like pulling down all of the equipment. I imagine like getting the baby scales ready. Like there was a lot of kind of like banging of equipment around. Like they were really getting stuff ready. There were like trolleys being wheeled in. More midwives were appearing. I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is happening. And that was it. I then, from then on, had someone come in. I was getting a little bit dehydrated, so I had an IV of fluid. So Tommy was here holding my hand throughout. He was amazing, saying like all the right things, wasn't annoying in any way whatsoever. All I can remember, the best way to describe it is that I felt like I really needed the toilet for number two, as I've said. And there was a lot of writhing around, and a lot of people had said to me, don't do it on your back, don't lie down on the bed. But once I was on that bed, there was no way I was getting off that bed, and I gave birth laid down on the bed. They put my legs in stirrups at the very end. They were getting a little bit worried about baby's heartbeat, so they put a clip on his head, because I think it was taking a little bit longer for me to push him out than they wanted, if that makes sense. So they monitored baby's heartbeat just in case. For me, it wasn't even a decision that like they said, right, you need to start pushing now. It just kind of like happened. You could feel like I could feel him like moving down, and I just knew that it was happening. I knew it was that we were so close, and the contractions were obviously getting really, really strong. And this gas and air, I felt like I was going to rip it off the bloody wall, I'll tell you that. That helped so much. I didn't actually have any other pain relief. I only used the gas and air, and I couldn't have done it without the gas and air. And I think I was very, very, very lucky in the fact that my labour was very, very quick, because by 8:54 p.m. he had arrived. Right at the very end, they talked about using suction cups, and I remember hearing that, because I was kind of out of it, I'm not going to lie. You hear like drips and drabs. The best thing with the gas and air is that you can take in as much as you want, but then you can like have a break and you're back to normal. Like you don't stay kind of a bit for ages. Like as soon as you've breathed it out, you're kind of back to normal. So I was hearing like drips and drabs of what people were saying, and I heard them say suction cups, and I was like, I must have just felt like, no, this isn't happening. Not that there's anything wrong with suction cups, but obviously the less interference that they had to do for baby, the better. At that point, something just kind of clicked, and I think I heard the sentence about suction cups. Tommy was like, come on, Amy, just like keep pushing, push properly, push from your stomach. And I felt like he was hearing about 3 pushes, honestly. It was all very, very, very quick. And they actually said, in the next push, you will have a baby. And I was just like, I could cry now thinking about it. And then he arrived, and they popped him straight on my chest. He actually weed and pooed on me as he came out, which obviously I didn't mind, and it meant that everything was working. He cried almost instantly, and he was just this wriggly, beautiful thing that had been placed on my chest. And I was still wearing that t-shirt, so they like hoisted it right up so that you could put him here and do some skin to skin. And he was perfect. When I was pushing, I remember one of the midwives saying, Amy, I'm just going to cut you now, is that okay? And I was just kind of like went with it and was like, yes, whatever. Like I just wasn't thinking at all what was going on. I just wanted him here safely. It turns out that I had a little tear, and I did have an episiotomy. That was what the cut was that she was asking if she could do. So I spent like the next hour, 45 minutes to an hour, with my legs up in stirrups. And they had like a few second opinions coming in to see how was best to kind of stitch me up and repair me down there. And I remember one of the surgeons, or I guess surgeons who was doing the stitching up, asked if it was okay if she popped this painkiller up my back passage because the episiotomy, I think, calls for it, and it can be very, very painful. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. So I had that, and I'd had all these midwives kind of staring at me down there. All dignity has gone out the window. You just don't care. If any of you are worried about thinking about people looking at your bits or anything like that, it doesn't even come into your head when you're actually giving birth, let me tell you. All of these people looking at me down there, and then when I'd given birth to him, one of the midwives kindly asked me, she said, do you mind if we help you him to latch on to breastfeed? Do you mind if we kind of like touch your breast to put it near baby's mouth? And I was like, you have seen everything. You've popped something up my back passage. I've had all eyes and ears and everything looking at me down there. I'm honestly fine with you touching my boob to get my baby to feed on my breast. It just seemed really funny that they were asking permission when at that point I was literally led there like, do whatever you like, with baby on my chest. And Tommy was amazing, and I didn't want Tommy to, I bet that's been annoying all the way through, hasn't it? I didn't want Tommy to hold him straight away because I think I needed the gas and air more for being stitched up afterwards than I did the actual labour, and I was so out of it. I think at one point I felt like, right, I need to stop this now because I felt high. I honestly felt like I wasn't in the room, and I didn't want Tommy to hold him for the first time and me not be present, if that makes sense. So he was an absolute angel and waited for about 40 minutes until I felt like the pain was easing and I could stop off the gas and air. And then he held him, and he passed baby to me when he was born, so he had kind of held him, but he didn't hold him properly, which I just think it was just the most kind of like selfless and amazing thing to do. And from that point, he'd already been such an amazing dad to him, and he had only been there for like 40 minutes. And yeah, that's basically it. There were fireworks as he was being born. It was obviously around kind of Blackpool have like a firework championship every year, and as he was being born, I remember just saying, "Can anyone else hear fireworks?" as I was pushing this baby out, and so that's something that we can tell him when he's 18, I suppose, or when he's older, and yeah, I remember asking all kinds of questions, being a bit daft throughout. I hope I've done this justice. I had put so much pressure on myself about doing this video, and I feel like because I didn't make notes, I've rambled through it and I've probably missed out a load of stuff. But I think I've covered everything. If you want me to do some kind of question and answer on like the labour or the delivery or anything like that, then let me know and leave a comment in the comment section, and then I'll do that as well as this, because I do feel like I've rambled on a tad. We called our parents to tell, or we texted them because I was being stitched up. Tommy texted our parents who came up and met him after like a couple of hours, and then by about 1 o'clock they moved me up to the ward, and I hadn't realised at that point that Tommy wasn't able to stay over with me and he was going to have to go home. Probably one of the hardest things was that the realisation that I'd just given birth, and then because he was out of like visiting hours, he was having to go home, and I'd had this baby with me for a couple of hours, and then it was just me and him for like the next 8 hours until Tommy could come back. And that was pretty scary, I'm not gonna lie. And it was only like a few days after when we got home, I was thinking to myself, that's actually a pretty like ballsy thing to have to do that. To be, I know the midwives are there, but like it was a pretty kind of like, I don't know, it was just surreal. The entire thing was surreal, and honestly, I just feel really, really lucky because I think I had a very, very quick labour. Everything kind of went to plan. He made a very, very swift appearance, and all the midwives were amazing. Tommy was incredible. By about 2 o'clock, Tommy had gone home, and then it was just me and little Rupert, very, very sleepy Rupert, who had kind of taken to breastfeeding really, really quickly and was latching on fine. And we were just in this bubble, and that was that. And he was here. So that is my labour story. I think I've covered everything. He was born at £7 5 ounces, so a really, really good weight, and he passed like every check that he needed to pass, like his hearing and his paediatrician checks and things like that. Please leave me a comment or ask any questions that you've got in the comment section. As I say, the hospital bags didn't make it out of the hospital, so I'm not going to do a what I found useful in my hospital bag video, because I didn't actually use any of it. I gave birth in the t-shirt that I went in with, that I'd had on all day, and I just had rich tea biscuit. I just ate Nice biscuits throughout the night and chocolate buttons. That's it. I really hope you enjoyed this and that it wasn't too long and too chatty. I'm gonna go. It's a very poignant way to end a video with a baby crying in the background, isn't it, when you're talking about your birth? But I really hope you enjoyed this. If you're new around here, then please do subscribe, and I will see you all very soon. Thank you for watching.